Another Russian military provocation sends NATO jets scrambling, and top-ranking officials are vowing to beef up security along the Russian border as a result. Fox's Jonathan Hunt has more tonight from London.
NATO scrambled jets once again to deal with another Russian provocation. This time it was in Estonia. 3 Russian MiG-31 fighters crossed the border and violated Estonian airspace for at least 12 minutes on Friday. Italian F-35 jets responded and the Russians flew back over their border.
Putin attacked NATO, and this is a fact, so we need to face that. So I do hope that President Trump as well understands that.
The incident came just over a week after NATO planes shot down Russian drones over Poland, and Romania reported an airspace violation by Russian MiGs. European allies now standing behind Estonia.
These are not the actions of someone who wants peace.
We need to keep strengthening the whole of EU's eastern border.
A big part of that is a new NATO operation aimed at stopping the Russians from crossing the border again.
NATO launched Eastern Sentry, a multi-domain activity designed to strengthen our eastern flank.
Meanwhile, as the fighting grinds on, President Trump is still pushing an economic solution, telling world leaders to stop buying Russian oil, claiming it's the fastest way to end the war.
If the price of oil comes down, Putin's going to drop out. He's going to have no choice. He's going to drop out of that war.
Estonia and the other Baltic states are seen as the most likely targets if President Putin decides to expand the war into NATO countries. In London, Jonathan Hunt, Fox 4 News.
In a couple of days, twice, because of course you are sending a signal to Russia, a signal of nervousness, maybe, and this will be listened like this in Russia, of course. And the more practical question about the incident in Estonia: what can you tell us about the Russian fighter jets? Were they armed actually in this moment? Thank you.
Well, to begin with your first question, I think these 2 Article 4s are both warranted. And it had to do first with the impact of the drone threat to Poland. This was a multiple amount of drones, so this was different from some other incursions. So I think it was totally clear that the Polish government had to invoke Article 4, and I think it was very useful. And also here, when it comes to Estonia, last Friday, when you look at the location and the duration of the presence of these MiG-31 in Estonian airspace, I think it is absolutely warranted that we had this Article 4 consultation. But let me also make very clear that our Supreme Allied Commander has all the authorities he needs, that this alliance has all the capabilities it needs to, whenever the Russians, whether it is intentional or not, but blatantly, be it incompetence, but at least being reckless and being irresponsible, try to invade Allied airspace, NATO airspace, then we will react. They know, and we will defend ourselves. There's no doubt.
взорвался на парковке. Если газ, сейчас газ как начнет взрываться, тут сейчас огонь.
Твою мать! Хуя себе, блядь! Сейчас въебет, по-моему, твою мать! Хуя себе, блядь! Вот это въебало!
Отлично! Слава Богу, что там!
Сердце!
Боже!
The facts are simple. Stopping this war now, and with it, the global arms race, is cheaper than building underground kindergartens or massive bunkers for critical infrastructure later. Stopping Putin now is cheaper than trying to protect every port and every ship from terrorists with sea drones. Stopping Russia now is cheaper than wondering who will be the first to create a simple drone carrying a nuclear warhead. So we must use everything we have together to force the aggressor to stop. And only then do we have a real chance that this arms race will not end in catastrophe for all of us. If it takes weapons to do it, if it takes pressure on Russia, then it must be done. And it must be done now. Otherwise, Putin will keep driving the war forward wider and deeper. And we told you before, Ukraine is only the first, and now Russian drones are already flying across Europe, and Russian operations are already spreading across countries. And Putin wants to continue this war by expanding it, and no one can feel safe right now. So first, we are now building a new security architecture for ourselves. More than 30 countries are already part of our coalition, and we are strengthening army, launching joint weapons production with partners, and defining financial commitments for defense in a way that could become a security model for any other nation. If security guarantees work for Ukraine, something more than just friends and weapons, it will mean that people were able to make national security not a privilege for a few nations, but a right for everyone. Second, we are ready to make our modern weapons become your modern security, your modern weapon. And we have decided to open up arms exports. And these are powerful systems tested in a real war when every international institution failed. And we are also ready to grow our defense production together with strong partners so that their protection is modern and reliable. You don't need to start this race from scratch. We are ready to share what has already proven itself in real defense. But in the end, peace depends on all of us, on the United Nations. So don't stay silent while Russia keeps dragging this war on. Please speak out and condemn it. Please join us in defending life and international law and order. People are waiting for action. Thank you so much. Slava Ukraini!
if what would you tell somebody who works at the Kremlin today? Would you tell him to make sure he knows where the nearest bomb shelter is?
First of all, they have to know where their bomb shelters are. If they will not stop the war, they will need it in any case. If we will finish war with Russians, yes, I'm ready not to go, because it's not my goal, elections. I wanted very much in a very difficult period of time, be with my country, help my country. Yes, that's it, what I wanted always. My goal is to finish the war. Our people, for today, they hate Russians because they began the war and they killed us. But all our people understand that we don't need to attack civilians.
To ensure peace, we must prepare for war. From this moment forward, the only mission of the newly restored Department of War is this: warfighting. Preparing for war and preparing to win. Unrelenting and uncompromising in that pursuit. Not because we want war, no one here wants war. But it's because we love peace. We love peace for our fellow citizens. They deserve peace, and they rightfully expect us to deliver it. Our number one job, of course, is to be strong so that we can prevent war in the first place. The president talks about it all the time. It's called peace through strength. And as history teaches us, the only people who actually deserve peace are those who are willing to wage war to defend it.